Good evening and happy Wednesday to each and every one of you. I know we've taken a little bit of a break from our weekly Bible studies, but we are starting back up again. So I hope that you're ready for us to go through a new book. Last time we went through the book of John, and then we went through the book of 1 John. For the next study, I asked any of our viewers to submit their requests for what book we should study. Cordelia responded and said she would like to study the book of Ruth, and that was her suggestion. And since she was the only one that submitted a request, Cordelia, thank you for that request. We're going to study the book of Ruth. I'm not going to start chapter 1 today. We're going to do kind of an introduction today, so you have time to go ahead and study before we actually go through Ruth chapter 1. Today, I just want to look at an introduction to get you primed for studying this short but very interesting book. The book of Ruth is written during the time of the Judges. And if you've ever read the book of Judges, you'll find so much of it is dealing with this moral degeneracy, this lack of spiritual life in the nation of Israel. In fact, even Judges chapter 2 talks about Israel's disobedience. It talks about their unfaithfulness to God. And the book then goes to delineate all the different ways in which the judges failed God. They went into depravity of violence, of not taking care of the poor, of this straying away from God. And the book of Judges tells us that story. And then comes this book of Ruth right after Judges, and it's almost like a breath of fresh air for the readers, because we find here a story so interesting that during this time, yes, the overall spiritual life of the connection that Israel had with the one true God, as it was going away, we find here a story in Ruth of a woman that was not part of the Israelites. A woman that comes onto the stage to come and want to serve the one true God, who shows dedication, who shows commitment, and a woman whose life is filled with some kindness and patience and understanding and wisdom. Yet she was from the tribe of Moab, a nation hated by the Israelites. And if you don't remember, the Moabites came from the incestual relationship between Lot and his older daughter. And Ruth was a descendant of that incestuous relationship. And the Moabites were hated by the Israelites. And here we find a woman who shows God's character in how she's dealing with others. And she wasn't part of God's people. And this story that we're going to read in Ruth is one between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law who had a wonderful relationship. Now that flies in the face of not just ancient history, but modern history, where all TV shows and movies are telling you about how the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law do not get along, how they hate each other, how they wish they didn't have to live close to one another, and the battle that goes on between them. But here in this story, it shows that that's not the way it should be. When God is at the center, things do change, and Naomi and Ruth find a bond that is unlike one we're used to seeing between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. We're going to look into that. What does that presence of God do in their relationship? It's a story in Ruth that tells us about loss, about poverty, and about regaining it, about retaining the dignity that God has for each and every one of us. And then we get to Boaz, a kinsman redeemer, we're going to talk about this term, and who comes to restore Ruth and bring her back into a place in society that she never thought she'd be able to be in. And she and Naomi, Ruth and Naomi, really have a mother-daughter relationship. And we're going to see how that blossoms and how God works in the midst of the depravity that's going on all around them. Yes, there are still stories of people that are close to God, people that haven't knelt to a different God. And here in the story of Ruth, she forsakes her other gods in order to come into contact with the one true God. Why did she do that? What prompted her to think that this God was better than the God she had grown up with as a child? Why not return to the home and to the place she knew before? Why stay with Naomi? And amidst all that, even then, go and marry an Israelite man, Boaz. Why all of this? I hope you'll join with me in this wonderful story of friendship, of family, of romance, and one that shows us of a God who's seeking to redeem you and I as well. So I hope you'll join with me next week on Wednesday for our Bible study as we'll go through Ruth chapter 1. And I hope that you'll take the time during this next week to not only read Ruth 1, but go ahead and read all of Ruth this week. And then we'll focus on Ruth chapter 1 together. As always, leave your comments for me down in the comment section below. And I read every single one of them. So please do leave a comment. Click the like button and subscribe. Let your friends know we're going to be studying the book of Ruth this next session of Bible studies. I don't know how many weeks it's going to take. So I hope they'll join with us in that journey. Tell a friend, a neighbor, a family member that they can join with us for just 20 minutes every Wednesday. They can watch at their own pace as well. And we can learn to read God's Word so that it may speak to us, so it may change us, so it may bring us into a closer connection with our God, that we may know Him better, so that when we see Him soon once again, we'll say, yes, this is the God whom I've waited for. God bless you in this upcoming week, and I will see you next Wednesday.